Welcome everybody to 3 Count Commentaries. We're going to talk about the December the 3rd episode of AEW Dynamite. And before we do that, however, we're going to get into this quote from Tony Khan. Because this quote from Tony Khan is indicative of what is wrong with AEW and its fan base and its apologists, etc. So Tony Khan says from an interview with Battleground IHR or Battleground Podcast. I don't know who these people are, but they're based in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm guessing it's a fan cast or something. But Tony Khan says, quote, "This has been an awesome year for AEW. We're the challenger brand in pro wrestling, and I think we've really closed the gap in a very meaningful way in 2025 in a number of key metrics. This was a big year for us because we've been doing great wrestling every Wednesday night on TBS, every Saturday night on TNT for many years. But we also added millions of new homes that can reach AEW this year with AEW on HBO Max. There's many reasons, why 2025 has been a tremendous year for AEW. And most of all, it comes down to the fans. Whether you're watching on TV or streaming or coming to the show in person like tonight, everybody has come together, the wrestlers, the staff, and the fans, and they're just made this just an awesome year for AEW. So I'm really proud of what we're doing here." Tony Khan is very proud of what they're doing in AEW. He says that they have added millions of new homes that can reach AEW. That can reach. That is very important language. Because he's saying that there's the potential for there to be millions of new homes. But those people have yet to find AEW, apparently. Then he says that they closed the gap, I guess, between them and WWE in a very meaningful way. However, he does not specify in what way. Their ratings are down. Their attendance is down. They're running in smaller buildings. Their pay-per-view buy rate, which we're not sure about, is the same as it's always been. So it hasn't been any growth, but it hasn't been any downslides either. In what way are they closing the gap? So I really thought about it, and I did a charitable analysis, and I say the meaningful way that they've closed the gap is probably in TV rights fees, and that it's likely WWE is being paid a whole lot more money than they were being paid. And now that they got a bit of a financial boost, that gap has been closed. Now, clearly, WWE signed 2 new deals since then with Netflix and with ESPN. So it's a runaway on income. But perhaps Tony Khan is looking at things to the point where he's saying, hey, if you compare our TV deal to, let's say, SmackDown, it's a closer gap. That's the only thing I can think about. The only other way to be charitable about this is to think that all he cares about is the in-ring product. The buzz is not the same. The interest in the product is lower than it's ever been. And it continues to get lower. And it continues to be more and more pathetic. Now, again, I'm trying to be charitable, but Tony Khan does not give me anything to be excited about. Obviously, this guy is delusional. Obviously, he's out of his mind. It is what it is. I mean, we already knew this. But it's fairly clear to everybody that every time you watch an episode of Dynamite, the show is consistently mid. You may have some good wrestling, but there's not going to be much in the way of stories or storytelling or intrigue. Nothing that's going to make you want to come see this show the next week. Nothing that's going to make you want to pay for the show, either via pay-per-view or leaving your home to go to the building. The sickos who loved the show from the beginning are the same people who love the show now. Those people love the show regardless. Even when everybody else hated the show, even when people are quitting on the show, they still like the show. And Tony Khan books for the sickos. I mean, this has been what Meltzer and Alvarez and all of these guys have talked about. They've been, it's not going to change. And I think Meltzer is 100% correct when he says this. It's not going to change. This is the way Tony Khan wants it. He loves going to ECW shows and indie wrestling shows in the Northeast with small crowds, small but passionate crowds. And he enjoys watching wrestling. And now he gets to have some level of control over the show that he's watching. He gets to have conversations with the talent. He's got a meet and greet every week, twice a week. He's got a meet and greet with some of his favorite wrestlers. And he's continuing to sign wrestlers even though he can't find a place to feature the ones that he has. And this mentality, which is optimistic, and I can't blame a guy for being optimistic. Can't blame a guy for wanting to be positive about his own product. But he's delusional. He's delulu. There is no closing of the gap. And nobody, not one soul, is going to ask him what he meant. I want to say I saw a fan named @LobCityLeo call this toxic positivity. And that is 100% what's going on here. He's ignoring all the traditional metrics of business to focus on his own personal internal metric and saying, we're doing a great job. We're doing phenomenal. It's been a great year. But touting no stats whatsoever. In fact, when people read the things that he says, we walk away thinking the show is worse than ever or more boring than ever. But it depends a whole lot on whether you're a sicko or not. Because the sickos still love the show. And the sickos will never die. They'll never go away. You can't get rid of them. I mean, people still watch TNA. You can't get rid of them. Okay? Sometimes you just can't run people off. People for years have said, like, you know, I remember being on the internet during 2013, 14, 15. Especially, well, 2012 was probably one of the really rough years in WWE. And all your favorite podcasters, one in particular who I'm not going to name, used to talk about being in an abusive relationship with WWE. You watch the show every week, and the more and more you think that the company actively hates you or actively does not like you in particular. And a lot of these people were trapped because they do podcasts and, you know, now it's YouTube and all this sort of stuff. And I told myself, I'm never going to be that guy. And I'm not. When I got tired of TNA, I didn't just stop watching. I stopped reviewing it. And I moved on. All right. Am I at that point with AEW? Not yet. But it's getting close. And I'm actually pretty close with SmackDown and Raw too. Where I like to get through the reviews as quickly as possible. Still try to have some fun. Still, you know, I still have fun talking about it. And that's the one thing that I'll say. When it's not fun to talk about, that's when I'll stop watching it. Because I've seen a whole lot of bad wrestling. I've sat through a whole lot of bad wrestling. That's not the issue. It's been 15, 20 years of bad wrestling. I've never seen a product. Even when WWE was at its worst, there were still glimmers of the company is trying to entertain you in one way or another. Right? Even if they don't got the right guys, they're not pushing the right guys. Your favorite guy's not on top. Your favorite guy just did a 40-second job on TV and you're fuming. You're pissed. You're screaming into the microphone. But there's still an attempt to make people happy, even if it's failing. I'm not sure AEW is even trying. I think this is 100% an audience of one. This is what Tony Khan wants to see. And he is not even attempting to mitigate that. He's not saying, well, look, I'm going to do what I want, which is just Continental Classic. But I'll do it in a way that may entertain a bunch of other people too. Because that's a sensible position to take, right? A sensible position to take is, I'm the writer of the story. I'm going to write the story that I want. At the same time, though, there are, I'm selling this. So there needs to be something to leave the people who are the buyers of the product, leave them happy. Now, I'm going to use one more example, then we're going to get into this show. This is not wrestling at all. This is anime. Not even anime, manga, right? Attack on Titan. When that manga ends, the mangaka sends out a note, apologizing to the fans who absolutely hated the last arc of the book. He was begging them not to attack him, begging them to, be respectful when he shows up to cons and things. Most people didn't even think about it, but the guy who wrote Attack on Titan, he had never written anything before Attack on Titan, and then retired immediately afterwards because it was so popular. It made so much money. He was like, you know what? I'm just going to bow out. I'm done. He told the story he wanted to tell. He turned the lead character of the book into a heel at the end, which did not make anybody happy. And then he was like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. And people now, Attack on Titan is still incredibly popular, but they didn't stick the landing. And there's a lot of people who are upset with him for how the manga ended. On the other end was My Hero Academia. When it seemed like that manga was over and the people were not happy with the finish to that manga, the mangaka decided to trick everybody and put out an extra chapter which gave people some level of conclusion that they wanted. And he didn't give them what they wanted, but he pushed himself and his team to put out one more chapter to get the people closer to what they wanted. And so, yes, there were people who were, My Hero Academia, it ended kind of weak. But you got some level of closure. Without spoiling it, there was a lot of people who were obvious they were shippers. And people wanted that ship to be confirmed before he ended the series. And he had intended to end the series without confirming the ship. He did one more chapter just so they could shake hands at the end. Right? And pretty much agree to spend more time together. There has been many such occasions with this. I'll give you another one. It's Full Metal Alchemist. This one was the anime, because I didn't read the manga. When the original series ended, people were pissed. They were not happy with the ending to the original Full Metal Alchemist. And so they decided to redo the entire series, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, stuck closer to the manga, and they nailed the finish. Gave the people exactly what they wanted. The ship that the people wanted, they got it. Everything that they wanted, the loose ends that they tied it up, nailed it. And the people were happy. As a writer, booker, creative person, you are the one telling the story. You're the one selling the product. You have to find a way to navigate what you want to do and what your audience wants you to do. You have to look at this thing and say, I want to do this. How could I get what I want while giving you what you want? This, what's going on with Tony Khan, is as bad as what you could imagine with Vince McMahon. The issue is, Tony is such a nice guy that people are not going after him for it. But these shows are pathetically boring, skippable shows. They're boring, skippable shows. Even when you have the potential to do something, they don't do anything. Case in point, we're finally getting into the review now. We're going to get into the Continental Classic stuff first, so I want to get it out of the way. The main event of the show was Claudio Castagnoli versus Jon Moxley. These two people have been teammates for, 2 years? Maybe longer. They might have been partners for 3 years. When William Regal put all this stuff together, right? They tag teamed a bunch of times. There was not one segment between the two of them where they said, let the best man win, or Claudio shows some disdain for how Moxley has behaved the last couple of weeks, months, his cowardice, his submissions, his tapping out. Nothing. They did nothing. They just had the match, and Claudio won. That was it. They didn't even do anything after the match, where you would think there's dissension in the ranks. There's more to the story. There's more going on. There was nothing. They had the match because it's a tournament. For starters, they wasted this match in a tournament when you could have built this thing up and probably made some money off of it. They threw it away in a tournament. It's over. I don't see how you could continue to tell this story outside of Moxley's. He's not what he used to be. Come on, give me a break. If people watch this show every week, why can't you reward them with something? Something. You're already doing the fucking match. We already trapped in the tournament. At least add some sizzle to the tournament matches. You can't do that. Oh, yes, you can do that. Because he did it with Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong on this fucking show. He had a backstage segment between Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong about their match in this tournament earlier in the night. And he did nothing to build up, add any sizzle to his main event. Make that make sense. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go through this. Kevin Knight wrestled Kyle Fletcher. It was a good match on paper. It was like a match I would watch on YouTube or something like that while I'm eating cereal on a Sunday morning or something. Kyle Fletcher won. Kevin Knight was very impressive physically. The springboard lariat, the coast to coast, pretty good. Took some decent bumps for him. They probably went a little long, but, they're young guys. They did some Don Callis family stuff after this where the Young Bucks got beat up. Jurassic Express got beat up, and then Kenny Omega had to save everybody. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. You see how they managed to get the stuff in there for the Elite and expand on their storyline and what they're doing? Regardless of what tournament shit's going on, they still managed to find a place to put the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But when it comes to everybody else, we can't figure it out. Whoop, slipped my mind. Whoop, come on. And then you had Okada and Pac. Okada defeated Pac. Another fine match. I'm not really a big fan of Okada. I never have been. Pac is right up my alley. He's just a very muscular elf. You know, his wrestling gear is very plain now, but, you know, gives me Dynamite Kid vibes. Okada wins with a roll-up after the Brutalizer. I was like, okay, so the tournament is what it is. I'm not even following the tournament. I don't care about points. I don't know who's got more points than anybody else. I don't give a shit. This whole tournament is a reason to take the entire month of December off, if we're being honest. But the tournament isn't really what's pissing me off, because there is a part of me, because you can't watch this much of this stuff and so much of it over time that you hate wrestling matches. So that wasn't what caused me to trip out. What caused me to trip out was that they booked the Dark Order for this show. It's not bad enough that you had tons of horse shit on the show, just really boring, stale stuff. But then you booked the Dark Order, which I have not had the pleasure of seeing in over a goddamn year. And now they're back. And they're going to wrestle the Ops. So that means Shit Bada is going to be there. Hook and Shit Bada and Hobbs, poor Hobbs, they crushed the Dark Order. Okay, great. Hangman Page came in there, beat up everybody, because apparently he could do that. He's Steven Seagal. He's beat up everybody. He beat up, chased off the Ops, beat them up, chased them off, then beat up a ton of security guys. He's full of piss and vinegar. Challenged Hobbs and Shit Bada to a tag team match next week. Okay. All right. If you say so, boss. I'm not even going to argue with you, because I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. There was a women's tag team tournament match. A holiday hardcore match. Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa versus Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne. It featured a candy cane wrapped in barbed wire. Which, does it make sense? No. Did I expect it to? No. Why do they use barbed wire and stuff like that so often that it don't even move me anymore? Alright? It's become mundane. They do barbed wire at least every other week now. It literally doesn't mean anything anymore. Megan Bayne got power driven through a table, which doesn't mean anything, because I've seen guys get power driven through tables in regular matches on this same goddamn program. So having a hardcore match doesn't mean anything when pretty much every other match is a hardcore match. And of course, Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm won. So the finals next week for the tag team championship, or is it next week, or is it the pay-per-view? I don't know, and I don't care. It's Toni Storm and Mina versus Willow and Harley. So 2 babyface teams. They did a vignette for Willow and Harley. I thought that was cute. They're a very cute tag team. They're not going to win, though. Harley's a jabroni. So there's that. Very disappointing. Then certain things are revealed to me that were previously unknown, such as FTR has an issue with the Gun Club. And I foolishly wrote the Gun Club because I wasn't paying attention to Dax, who looks like he works at H&R Block. And I wasn't paying attention. And then I realized as I looked up that he was talking about Juice Robinson. I'm like, Juice Robinson? Why is he talking about Juice Robinson? And it was like, oh, so it's not the Gun Club. It's one of the Gun Boys and Juice Robinson. Get real, man. What are you doing? What are we doing here? We booking the Dark Order. We booking Juice Robinson. What are we doing? This show is aimed, this is a fuck you to me directly. That's how it feels. Oh, you hate these boring ass tournament matches? Here, we're going to do more of that. You hate stupid, pointless, hardcore matches? We're going to do that. Oh, and thank God this isn't going to be on Collision, so it's not going to have nothing to do with me. We want to introduce you to Juice Robinson having a tag team championship feud. I'm just blessed I haven't seen him on TV in years. So I'm not going to complain too much about this, but clearly wasting my time with Dax Harwood, who should be bagging groceries, or sitting at home reading a good book next to his fireplace. He needs to be doing something else. He's the kind of guy who should be doing Instagram stories about CM Punk's dog. That's the kind of guy he is. Extremely nice, very neighborly. The other guy carries a gun, so he's cool. So then we got a vignette for Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander. Apparently they're going to be having a match. They're going to wrestle each other. Fair. I like both girls. There's no heat between them. There was no storyline between them. And they decided to give them a, 20-second, 25-second promo spot? Statlander. She deserves better than this. What did she do to deserve this? She's world champion and she's getting treated like one of the least important people on the show. She's easily top 5 least important people on the show. Mark Briscoe spent more time talking about Daniel Garcia than what Chris Statlander got on this show. And this is the second week since she beat Mercedes that she hasn't been featured on the show. No match, no promo, no story, nothing. Nothing. You can't even like somebody if you wanted to. That's how this show is booked. You can't even like somebody if you want to. All right. That wasn't it. This show wasn't riveting enough. That wasn't it. Then it is revealed to us that Ricochet will be defending his national championship. You know, the title that he just won, that he has yet to turn up on television with. I think he might have been on Collision, which to me is basically public access TV. It's not like, you have a spank brand new championship that you should be pushing so that people could care about it. But how could you possibly care? Because there's so many goddamn champions. But he's going to be wrestling on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view that nobody knew was coming until this very moment. Well, I knew because I happened to look it up. Because I knew they were doing something this weekend because I had heard some whispers about it. So they threw Ricochet on the show. And I'm thinking, that ain't going to help matters at all. That show is probably going to flop. And it's going to, you just made the show more expensive. Right? The show is now more expensive than it would have been. But hey, I guess if you are a hardcore sicko, and you just got to see that national title for the first time be defended, then I guess Ring of Honor is the place to do it. I was like, all right, fine. I guess depends on what the card looks like. I may watch it like on a Saturday afternoon. I'm snowed in Detroit. I ain't got nothing else to do. Maybe I'll watch it, maybe. And then we figure out that our good friend, our GOAT, Mercedes Banks, she will also be wrestling on that pay-per-view. And she's wrestling somebody she's already beaten. She's wrestling Red Velvet. She's wrestling Red Velvet. Mercedes, who they're spending millions of dollars on, is being sent to Ring of Honor to work a mid-card match against Red Velvet, who she beat 2 weeks ago on television. Does that sound very thoughtful? Did you think that one through? Did you come up with that all by yourself, Tony? A retard could have come up with something better than that. Honestly. If you're going to put Mercedes on the show, she should be wrestling for the world title. That's just common fucking sense. If she's going to be on Ring of Honor, she should be the fucking world champion. I don't get why she's the team. Okay, never mind. Look, this is y'all Booker of the Year. I'm not going to sit here and quarrel with you about this. But Ricochet, Mercedes, what can I say? What can I say? Get your money, man. Get your money up. I mean, you're doing what you got to do. You're doing what you got to do. It's pretty crazy, too. Not to derail it, but to really drive home the point. Damian Priest, former world champion, he wrestled on Main Event this week. He wrestled the guy from Pretty Deadly. And there was a bunch of accounts saying, man, look at this guy. Damian Priest was the world champion on Raw. Top guy. And now he's wrestling on Main Event without being promoted whatsoever. And I look, Triple H sucks. I don't know what more to tell you. What more can I say? He's the shits. Right? And now, just as I was saying that, I found out that Mercedes and Ricochet being sent to Ring of Honor. And it's not like they're being heavily promoted for the show, like they're the biggest stars and going to be in main event spots or anything like that, like WWE would do for NXT or something. They would give them a highlight for that. No, this was literally put together 2 days before the show, because the show was Friday. So they told you about the pay-per-view. They didn't promote it for weeks and weeks. In fact, the world champion was a tag team champion for most of this year. So there was no promotion whatsoever for Ring of Honor. They sprung it on you in the last minute, and then they decided to throw matches on the card 2 days before the show with no thought whatsoever. And the sickos are going to be like, well, at least Mercedes is going to be there. Okay. Whatever you say, boss. Whatever you say. Let's talk about this main event scene, though. So Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston are going to have a match. Eddie Kingston apparently called out Samoa Joe on Collision. A bunch of people showed me the clips of this because they were like, Eddie Kingston is back. I was like, Eddie Kingston is fat. And he still is. And this Eddie Kingston promo, I swear, I heard him cut this promo 3 years ago. Because Samoa Joe is Samoa Joe. He is what he is. He called... This feels like exactly they're running back the Eddie Kingston CM Punk storyline. That's what it felt like. Samoa Joe calls Eddie Kingston a choke artist and he'll never fulfill his full potential, which we've already done that storyline. We did that before Eddie Kingston became the Ring of Honor World Champion. You can't win the big one, Eddie. You're a fat fucking fool, Eddie. Right? We've already been here. We've already done this. He broke his leg. He fucked everything up. All right? We've been down this road. And then Eddie Kingston, terminally independent wrestler. When I known you for 15 years and used to fight my mentor Homicide, I respected you. I don't respect you no more. Where's your fighting spirit at? Huh? Where's your fighting spirit at? I want to fight that fighting guy. I want to fight that Samoa submission machine. I want to fight that Ring of Honor World Champion Samoa Joe. I don't want to fight you. I feel like I've heard this already. I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I'm in a time warp. What fucking year is it? Now look, outside of Eddie Kingston being old as hell, fat as hell, this is an intriguing match. I wish they'd have spent some time building up Eddie Kingston's return. I wish they'd have spent some time building up this story. And I wish they weren't arguing over the soul of Hook. Because I couldn't care less about anybody other than Hook. But it's fine. It's a stopgap match for the world title. Joe's got to beat up somebody. Might as well be Eddie Kingston. Who cares? So, that's fine. And that's the show. This was the entirety of the show. A complete and total waste of everybody's time. But the gap is closed. Well, it's closing, according to Tony Khan. The only thing that's closing on AEW is the casket. Tony Khan's got plenty of money, but he ain't got much else. I'll talk to you guys later. Be blessed.